charge you double at the end of the trip.
Put the camera in the bag.
First trip was 2 people, second trip was 3, this one's 4.
We're getting there. Morning. My name is Sue. That's George in the back. I want to thank you for coming to the Homosassa Springs Wildlife Park. Now, until we get out of the slip, I'm just going to ask you to watch for all those. We don't want to bang you on those posts there, but once we get out, perfectly fine. We can hang over, look in the water, and see what we can see. It'll be about a 20-minute trip, and I'll give you some information along the way.
Yep, hold that on there. Put it down in the bag. Hold that on the woman. It's going. It's recording.
You're recording the whole thing?
You don't have the woman. Put it so you can see it.
Well, you do.
I just want to get a drink of soda. Get that water. Take it. The water's good. Turn around a minute.
Hopefully will be interesting. You're going to see some palm trees directly ahead of us as well as all along the creek here. That's called a sable palm. It's the state tree of Florida. It's also known as the cabbage palm. And many years ago, they used to use the heart of the palm tree for food. Hence the name cabbage palm, also known as swamp cabbage. This tree can also be found in South Carolina. I believe it's called the palmetto palm. And you will see in some grocery stores in the canned vegetable section, you can find heart of palm. The fish that you may see in the creek, we have gar, we have the brim, which is also known as the bluegill. You may see an occasional mullet jumping up out of the water, some catfish. You'll see red and yellow-bellied sliders, those are turtles, and we've got some snapping turtles in the creek as well as soft-shell turtles. The soft-shell turtles tend to get pretty big, but they also tend to stay under the water, so you have to really look for them. We're traveling down Pepper Creek. Pepper Creek is translates loosely in the Native American language of Crete tribe, place of many peppers, and I'm told there used to be a lot of pepper plants growing along the shores here. You may see one or two, but they're not very plentiful right now. Pepper Creek flows into the Homosassa River, and Then 9 miles down the Homosassa River empties into the Gulf of Mexico. These are spring-fed waterways. They maintain a temperature of 72 degrees year-round, and so the manatees are attracted to these creeks and rivers during the winter time. They can't sustain the cold weather or the cold water, so they come into where the springs are to stay warm. We had a very cold winter last year, particularly for Florida, and we lost somewhere, I'm told, in the range of 600 manatees died of hypothermia. The manatees we have in our park have been either injured by man or the weather. I believe we've got a couple of them that are still recovering from that cold winter last year. But the wildlife park maintains animals that are native to Florida that cannot be released for one reason or another. They've been injured, they've been imprinted by man, don't have the ability to survive on their own. Any wildlife you may see, and generally they hide when they hear us coming, but there are raccoons, bobcats, deer. I'm told you may see a black bear, but I don't know anybody that's ever seen one, but they are here somewhere. Now that box that you see directly ahead of us with the cone underneath it, that's a wood duck box. We've installed about 15 of those along the creek just so they could maintain a dwelling. Generally, they will make a nest in a hollowed out tree, maybe an abandoned woodpecker home. The wood ducks, which are going to be returning fairly soon, the female will fly into that little hole at a pretty good rate of speed. She'll lay anywhere from 14 to 18 eggs. They will hatch after about 28 days, and then after a day or so, she jumps out of the nest and jumps into the water and calls the baby ducks. And they jump out of the nest, never to return again. Unfortunately, most of them will not survive. It's usually maybe 1 to 3 of the babies that grow to adulthood because of the predators. Now, the cones underneath the boxes are predator shields, and they are to help keep out some of the predators such as raccoons and snakes. They would be the ones that would go into the nest before the little babies jump out. Then once they get in the water, they have to contend again with those same creatures, as well as turtles, alligators. We do have alligators in the creek. You may see them, but again, when they hear us coming, they generally hide. Now, the island that you see on the left is a man-made island. Many years ago, developers had intended this to be an exotic wildlife park. They built that island. It's called Palm Island. And as I understand it, they had monkeys on the island. Funny story that some of the volunteers here tell is that the monkeys used to jump off of the trees into the boat, and when it became property of the state of Florida, they wanted to just have natural Floridian inhabitants, so they took the monkeys, put uniforms on them, and let us drive the boat. We do have one inhabitant of the park that is not native to Florida, and that's Lou. Lucifer the hippopotamus. He's a 6,000-pound hippo. Just had his 50th birthday last January 26th. They generally live to about 55 years old, so we hope he's got at least that long, maybe longer, to stay with us. Lou was here many years ago, again, when it was an exotic wildlife park, and I think he was also in a movie here in Florida. But when they started looking for some place to send all of the non-native animals, the local residents got together, sent a petition to the Governor Childs at the time, requesting that he be allowed to stay, so the governor granted him an honorary citizenship of Florida. He is the only animal in the park that is not native to Florida. And on the right here, you're going to see a concrete abutment. That's all that's left of a water tower that was going to be put up. Back in the 1920s, a fellow from Chicago came down, fell in love with the area, and decided he was going to build homes and condos and a nice little town along the creek here. Well, the Great Depression hit in 1920, lost its funding, was not able to complete that project, so the concrete pillars are all that's left. And really, as beautiful as it is back here, still very much like it was many years ago, even centuries ago, kind of happy that that happened. We're going to come to a clearing up here, just past those two trees on the left that are leaning out over the creek. And I'm going to slow way down. The island is called Osprey Island, and the reason for that is once we get into the clearing, I'm going to ask you to look to your left. You'll see a very tall pine tree. And about 30 feet down from the top of that pine tree, right in the crotch of the tree, you're going to see a big mass of vegetation. That's the osprey nest that's been there, actually occupied by the same couple, we're told, for about the last 20 years. Now, those nests can range from 200 to 400 pounds. They get pretty heavy. The male comes in first. He'll fix up the nest. The female will fly in a few weeks later. If she's not completely happy with it, she leaves, and she won't come back until he makes that a really nice home for her. You also see a yellow-bellied slider on the left there on that log down by the water. And when you're coming back on the boat, you're going to go around the back side of this island, and you might have a lot better view of that nest. They come back generally, I'm told, around January.
Spanish moss hanging off the trees. It's neither Spanish nor moss. It's a bromeliad. It's in the pineapple family. It's an air plant. It doesn't feed off of the tree. It doesn't damage the tree. It gets its nutrition from the air and the moisture in the air. We usually see at least some birds along here. There are a few great blue herons that will just sit on top of the wood duck boxes and ignore us as we go by. So I apologize for the fact that they're being really antisocial today, but you're going to see all of those animals in the park. There are 3 programs available, and I'll refer you to the program slips that you get for the times. But we've got a manatee encounter. I think I see a bird straight ahead on the log there. We've got a manatee encounter. There are 2 shows left today. Also the wildlife encounter, as well as the hippo and alligator program. And that's where you'll get to meet Lou and watch him being fed. I'll also warn you that if you're standing behind Lou and he raises his tail and starts swishing it around, you want to move because he's about to do something pretty unpleasant and you don't want to be in the way. That is a great blue heron. Now we're about to pull into the fishbowl dock, and I'm going to ask you to remain seated until we get the boat completely tied up. Once we've got that taken care of, when you're going towards the park, you're going to pass across Fishbowl Drive. I would ask you to press the signal button so that you ensure that any oncoming traffic is going to stop and let you cross safely. And even if you do push that button and it gives you the go-ahead, please make sure that the traffic has come to a complete stop. And again, when we pull in, keep your arms and legs inside so that you don't bang your body parts on the pillars that are there.